Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel, our website, or our social media. It's in the description below. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a modern classic launched in 2009, the heir to a rich chronograph legacy at Vacheron Constantin of Geneva. This is the Vacheron Constantin Traditionnelle Chronograph, a timepiece 41mm in red gold. It is substantial for a Vacheron dress watch, and it has impressive wrist presence. Though only 11.4mm thick, it will slide easily under a cuff. It has a grace and an elegance because of its breadth as well as its thin profile. The aspect ratio is gorgeous. From lug to lug, 50mm with a 22mm spacing between the lugs, so it has a nice broad modern stance on the wrist. That broad lug spacing makes the watch look handsome, proportional, and contemporary in spite of its classical proportions when viewed in profile. This is where the watch is a traditional dress Vacheron. Thin, flat, easy to cuff with formal attire, but it's also got a little bit of a sporty air about it. First, it's a chronograph. Second, the case lines are strong. And finally, it does have a tachymeter scale calibrated in kilometers per hour, so it's got a bit of a sporting air to it. On my 16cm circumference wrist, it wears well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for a wrist much smaller than 14.5cm circumference, but the timepiece does look awesome on a big wrist. This is the rare fine traditional dress watch for big wrists. Now you can see the strap is substantial. It features curved spring bars so that the lugs, broad as they are, can be drilled close to the case, so the pivot point of the strap is actually inboard of the lug-to-lug dimension. That makes it fit better on a small wrist. It also ensures that there's a close coupled all-of-a-piece look with little daylight between strap and case. That's the benefit of the curved spring bar. Now on the underside you can see Vacheron Constantin, factory strap, calfskin on the bottom, alligator leather on top. It's made in France, probably by Camille Fournet, which is an OEM supplier of straps to JLC, Vacheron, and others in the Richemont group. It's a sort of reddish brown with a matte finish, large rectangular scale gaiter. In profile, you can see it's a sheer-sided construction showing the layers of leather with a monotone stitch, and then you have a lovely matching red gold Vacheron deployant clasp. Note the use of both polishing and media blasting with the polish inside the clasp. You'll also appreciate that the Maltese cross logo can be seen inside the clasp, and externally, it's a recurring theme on the watch. The lugs are strong, and as you'll note, they break out distinctly from the case. This is not a Calatrava style or Portugueser style integrated lug. This is a handsome welded lug construction where the lug is built separately and then welded to the case with the evidence of the welded joint between lug and case flank removed by hand. So this is a handmade case of the highest grade. You'll also note how it has many steps to break up its evident mass, all of high polish, but the case back is stepped inward, the bezel is stepped in, and then it's a flat conical section that unifies the watch with the crystal. Turn it all around to the crown side. You can see the Vacheron Maltese cross again. You can see that there's a little bit of an undertucked inboard ledge to the lug profiles, and again, that's just a little bit of visual nuance to break up the mass of the watch. You have shouldered rectangular vintage-inspired chronograph pushers, and then a silver dial with several different silver tones as well as red applique. You can see that the indices themselves are diamond polished and faceted. No printed dials on this watch. There are sunken sub-registers for constant seconds and chronograph minutes. You can see that the chronograph minute and seconds hand have both been blackened. You have a tachymeter outboard, which in conjunction with the chronograph can be used to gauge the speed of an object, such as a car, over a flying or standing kilometer. And then at center, this is how you know it's a Traditionnelle and not a Patrimony. The Traditionnelle features the Dauphine hands. And what does that mean? It just means that they are broad and triangular. One side is polished and one side is frosted, and that for maximum contrast against the dial base. You'll also note the double index at 12 and the use of an applique rose gold Vacheron Maltese cross logo. The movement is based on the ancient and venerated Lemania 2310, which in other forms powered the Patek Philippe 5070 as well as the watch that went to the moon in 1969. But this version is highly modified by Vacheron to become the caliber 1141. Now they do a lot to step it up. They adjust this 21 jewel movement in 5 positions. They replace the flat hairspring with a Breguet overcoil. You can see that the finishing is world class. And then there is a small hook guard. If you look at that little wire between the bridge for the escape wheel and the balance, you can see that little wire connecting them. That is a hooking guard to prevent the hairspring from getting hung up on the regulator in the event of a shock. The balance beats away at 18,000 vibrations per hour. It has a 48-hour manual wind power reserve. And as you can see, this is a lateral clutch and column wheel chronograph. You can see the lateral clutch engaging and disengaging. You can see the column wheel with its black polished crenellated towers indexing the steel components of the chronograph. So the bridges and plates are silvered, rhodium plated brass, and then you have steel for the chronograph yoke, recentering hammers, levers, and horns. You have a medley of silvers, violets, golds, all of it coming together with the standards you expect of one of the Holy Trinity members on a flagship complication: mirrored anglage, arrow straight Côte de Genève aligned across bridges, engine turning on the base plate, black polished screws, satination on the steel components of the chronograph. A sporting chronograph, but not necessarily a sports watch. It's 30 meters water resistant, but in every other regard, this is a daily driver of the highest grade. Email tmosso with a watch box for purchase and pricing.